Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Assembly Judiciary. Welcome to everyone here in Carson City, as well as those watching online through our legislative YouTube channel or through Nellis. And with that, Committee Secretary, please take the roll.
Assembly members Cole. Here. Dahlia. Here. Gonzalez. Here. Gray. Here. Hanson. Here. Hardy. Here. LaRue Hatch. Here. Marzola. Present. Moore. Here. Nadeem. Present. Ortlicker.
Here.
Roth. Urick.
Here.
Chair Miller.
Here. And with that, just a few reminders. Please make sure that you turn the volume off on your electronic devices. Today, we will have a work session and 2 bill hearings. Just asking that anyone presenting bills, please keep their remarks to 15 minutes each. Anyone testifying on a bill or making public comment at the end, please keep your comments to 2 minutes each. We also ask that before you speak, you announce your name and spell it so that we have it correct for the record. I'll provide the phone number now for those that will be joining by phone. The phone number is 888-475-4499, and the meeting ID is 825-0789-7877. And with that, we will begin our work session. So with that, I will hand it over to our policy analyst.
Thank you, Chair. For the record, Cesar Magro, Community Policy Analyst. As LCB nonpartisan staff, I can neither support nor oppose any of the measures that come before this committee. And our first bill in the work session today is Senate Bill 4, which revises provisions relating to consent to adoption and was sponsored by the Senate Committee on Judiciary on behalf of the Division of Child and Family Services of the Department of Health and Human Services, and there are no amendments for this measure.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion by Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? I have a second by Assemblymember Hanson. Members, any additional questions or concerns? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Nadeem. You're welcome. Senate Bill 13.
Senate Bill 13 revises provisions relating to disposition of bail and was sponsored by the Senate Committee on Judiciary on behalf of the Nevada Supreme Court, and there are no amendments for this measure.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Not seeing any, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblymember Dahlia. Any additional comments on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Dahlia. You're welcome. Senate Bill 203.
Senate Bill 203 revises provisions relating to the pari-mutuel system of wagering, is sponsored by Senator Pazina, and there are no amendments for this measure.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Not seeing any questions, I'll entertain a motion to do pass. I have a motion from Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblymember Cole. Any additional questions? Not seeing any. All those in favor? Aye. Anyone opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Cole. You're welcome. Senate Bill 241.
Senate Bill 241 revises provisions relating to juvenile probation, is sponsored by the Senate Committee on Judiciary on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Judiciary, and there are no amendments for this measure.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Not seeing any, I will entertain a motion to, we're all waiting to see whose phone it is. I'll entertain a motion. Thank you, Max. I have a motion from Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? I have a second from Assemblymember LaRue Hatch. Any additional comments on the motion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? And the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember LaRue Hatch.
Chair.
You're welcome. Senate Bill 406.
Senate Bill 406 revises provisions relating to civil liability and sponsored by Senate Committee on Judiciary, and there are no amendments for this measure.
Members, any questions? Assemblymember Hanson?
Thank you, Chair. I was perhaps just want to make sure, if I could clarify with legal, that this is a very narrow bill that deals with just the immunity for liability retroactively for that one semester at the in the NSHE system of 2020, that first semester. And it does not include any vaccine sort of information during that immunity.
Carly Ockrent, for the record, both of those things are correct.
Any additional? Assemblymember Gray?
Just wanted to go on the record. I'm going to vote yes to get out of committee and reserve my right for the floor.
Any additional questions? Okay, not seeing any. I'll entertain a motion to do pass. I have a motion from Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? Second. I'll have a second from Assemblymember Gonzalez. Any additional comments on the motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Gonzalez. You're welcome. Senate Bill 409.
Senate Bill 409 revises provisions relating to the reporting and investigation of child abuse or neglect, and sponsored by Senate Committee on Health and Human Services on behalf of the Joint Interim Standing Committee on Health and Human Services, and there are no amendments to this measure.
Thank you. Members, any questions? Not seeing any, I will entertain a motion to do pass. I have a motion by Vice Chair Marzola. Do I have a second? Second. I have a second from Assemblymember Gray. Any additional comments on the motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, and the motion passes unanimously. I'll assign that floor statement to Assemblymember Gray. All right, thank you, members. That concludes our work session for today. And we will move into our bill hearings. We are taking the bills out of order today. So we will begin with Senate Bill 346. Senate Bill 346 makes various changes relating to guardianship. So Senator, your hearing is open, so whenever you're ready, please proceed.
Thank you so much, Chair and members of the Assembly Judiciary Committee. It is always a delight to be in front of you, and I thank you for welcoming me back again this morning to present SB 346 alongside Catherine Nielsen from the Governor's Council on Developmental Disabilities. And I'm going to give a brief overview of SB 346, and then I'll allow Ms. Nielsen to kind of walk through the bill and explain the specific provisions. So in every state, including Nevada, we have a couple different kinds of guardianship. I think most of us normally think, at least I did, normally think of guardianship as children. When someone is not in the care of their own parents, they have a legal guardian appointed. But we also have adult guardianship. And this bill pertains only to adult guardianship. So individuals who are generally placed into adult guardianship arrangements fall into a couple of different categories. They might be individuals who are living with developmental disabilities and have not achieved full independence. They might be individuals who have had cognitive decline in their elder years and require assistance from a family member or a professional to assist with their legal matters. But basically, we're talking about individuals who, for one reason or another, the law recognizes that they're not in a position to make significant legal, financial, and or healthcare decisions on their own. In the past, we have been stuck in a kind of binary situation where people are either fully independent or they are assigned a legal guardian. And that system had a lot of drawbacks. It's not always necessary for an individual who might need some additional support to have a guardian appointed for them, because a guardian has a lot of legal rights and responsibilities. A guardian has the ability to make decisions on behalf of another individual. A guardian has the ability to make financial choices for that individual. And guardianship law does not outline necessarily the relationship between what we call the protected person, or the person who is being appointed the guardian, and the guardian. So, of course, we would hope that we would hope that the way that it would work would be if you had, for example, an elderly parent whose cognition was declining. We would hope that if you were appointed as their guardian, you would work with your parent to ensure that their wishes were honored and to make the decisions for them that they would have made when they had all of their faculties. But the law doesn't actually require that. The law allows the guardian just to make decisions. And so what SB 346 does is it promotes an alternative, an in-between kind of arrangement called supported decision making, which already exists in Nevada law. I want to be very clear that we're not inventing supported decision making and we're not introducing it into Nevada law for the first time, but we're making it available to more individuals. And what supported decision making is kind of what I just described. Rather than a legal guardian having all of the decision making power without the input of the protected person, supported decision making is a contract that the protected person and the person who supports them in their decision signs. So we see that often in Nevada, for example, with adults with developmental disabilities who are living in semi-independent situations. Maybe they're living in a group home, maybe they are living with parents but working outside of the home, and they don't have necessarily the same abilities to make important legal, financial, and healthcare decisions without the help of that supportive person. That person might be a parent, it might be a sibling, it might be another family member or someone who's not related to them. And so supported decision making is a contract between those two people that say, when it comes time to make a decision about signing a lease, buying a car, taking out that car loan, that the person, the protected person, and their supportive decision-making partner will work together in certain ways to make those decisions collaboratively. And so it provides some protections for that person who may otherwise be victimized, who may otherwise be taken advantage of by predatory lenders, by unscrupulous business owners, but it still allows them to maintain their independence and to have the decision-making power ultimately over their own lives. And so what SB 346 does is it says that in any situation where a guardianship is being contemplated of an adult, supportive decision-making and other less restrictive alternatives must be considered by the court. And it requires the court to actually make findings as to why they are choosing a power of attorney, a supported decision-making agreement, or guardianship. It requires the judge to put on the record why, if they are going to appoint a guardian, they're doing that in lieu of a supported decision-making agreement. What about this person's capabilities makes them unfit to be in a supported decision-making arrangement? What about the guardian makes it necessary that they have complete legal financial health care power? And if those standards aren't met, then the judge should implement a supported decision-making agreement or a power of attorney instead of a guardianship. With that, I would like to turn it over to Ms. Nielsen to walk you through the bill.
Thank you so much. So my name is Catherine Nielsen, that's spelled Nielsen, and thank you, Chair Miller, for hearing this bill today. So I'll walk you through the few provisions that are listed within this bill. Under Section 1, this really expands the law to include more of the least restrictive alternatives so that others understand that there are a lot of options out there before we get to guardianship. This includes things like durable power of attorneys in general, and supported decision-making agreements. So we wanted to make sure that that expanded and included more of that information. Moving into, looks like this is under Section 4, right at the very end, it also requires that information is given to the individual that includes all of those alternatives to guardianship so that they know what options are available to them out there, because there are situations where maybe they only want assistance with their financial decisions, but they don't need to have all of their rights restricted under a guardianship. Including under Section 5, it expands on why any least restrictive alternatives were not reasonable, because we, again, want to know why. What is the information that you are supporting these decisions with? The last big section that is proposed to be changed under Section 6.5 really talks about guardianships that are being transferred into our state from another state. We know that right now there the standards are not the same in every other state, but we know that we have set the standards that we consider acceptable here in the state of Nevada. So when individuals are moving into our state, we don't want them to just automatically be granted a guardianship here because we don't know that their standards are held to the same standards as our state here. So they go under that same process of reviewing if a guardianship is the right option for that individual. And the rest of the bill just kind of cleans up things to ensure that information is given on all of the least restrictive alternatives before guardianship is considered. Thank you.
Thank you. Are you ready for questions? Okay. Doesn't look like we have any questions. Right. So quickly run from the table. And I will go ahead and open it up for testimony in support of Senate Bill 346. So remember to say your name for us. And then after you say your name, to make sure that you spell it so that we have it correct for the record. And we ask that everyone keep their comments to 2 minutes each. So with that, you may begin.
My name is Maximilian Lowe, Maxmillian Lowe. I am in support of this bill, Senate Bill 346, because it provides the alternative to guardianship for the least restrictive environment. By providing options to a protected person, it allows them to make their own decisions with the help of their supporter of choice that helps which would provide them the self-determination that they would like. Self-determination allows a vulnerable adult maintain autonomy in their decision-making with the help of others to help them with their important decisions in their life. Therefore, I strongly support SB 346. Thank you.
Chair, members of the committee, Jonathan Norman, NORMAN, with the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. We represent the vast majority of proposed protected persons and protected persons in the state with direct representation as attorneys. So we're making sure that our clients retain as many rights as they can, that they're in the appropriate, if you think of level of care, so whether that's a guardianship, and we fight to have them in those least restrictive alternatives like supported decision making. And then we make sure that their estate, if they're in a guardianship, is spent appropriately and not squandered, and then we recover that money when it has been misspent. Imposing guardianship on adults with decision-making limitations should always be the last resort. There are many other supportive measures that allow an adult with cognitive deficits and the opportunity to participate in the decisions that impact their lives. We support SB 346 because it recognizes these alternatives to guardianship. SB 346 will lead to fewer unnecessary guardianships. Many adults and seniors with disabilities find themselves facing the rest of their lives in a court-ordered guardianship, not because they need it, but because less restrictive alternatives were not fully explored. SB 346 will require, before filing a guardianship petition, that the petitioner must discuss and explore those alternatives. The bill requires the court to find, before granting a guardianship, that those alternatives were explored but are insufficient to support the needs of the proposed protected person. These requirements will work to ensure that fewer unnecessary guardianships are initiated. SB 346 further emphasizes the rights of adults with decisional limitation to retain as much decision-making autonomy as those limitations allow. It was only a few years ago that this legislature enacted NRS 162C, the Supported Decision-Making Act, and NRS 162A.865, which created a power of attorney for adults with intellectual disabilities, and NRS 162A.870, which created a power of attorney for adults with dementia. These alternatives...
Mr. Norman, we are over time.
Those alternatives are awesome. Please support the bill.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My name is Alyssa Marquez.
My name is Alyssa Marquez.
Alyssa, can you spell your name for us?
Alysa Marquez, Mrquez.
Thank you so much.
I'm 22.
I'm 22 years old.
Down syndrome.
And I have Down syndrome.
Decisions.
She makes her own decisions. What do I do? She's just a little nervous.
Yeah, it's Alyssa, you don't have to read it if you don't want. You can just tell us what you're thinking if you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just want to tell me what you're thinking?
Did it cancel?
Yeah. She likes making her own decisions because she works with the DD Council. What else are you thinking? And I, Rebecca Ortiz, am sometimes her help.
Alyssa, what do you want to tell us about yourself?
Dog and Sadie. My lizard and 2 pets.
Oh,
She
you-
has 2 pets,
Do you take care of the pets yourself?
Yeah.
and then she takes care of them herself, right? She has a bunch of pictures, and she always shows us.
And Alyssa, do you like being treated like a grown-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, what do you do as a grown-up?
And home, please.
Yeah, she likes making her own decisions at home, and then even when she goes out, she likes making hotel arrangements.
Oh, you like to travel. Okay, we all do. And so, Alyssa, do you think this bill will help you be able to continue to be treated like an adult, like you are at 22 years old? And be able to do those things you want to do, like take care of your pets and make decisions for yourself and travel?
That's my brother David.
And it also helped her family, her brother David.
Of course it
and
will.
brother too, and his girlfriend.
And his girlfriend. Yeah, we definitely want to help his girlfriend. So, Alyssa, is there anything else you want to tell us about yourself?
My mom. And the stories.
Oh, this is Mom. Well, hey, Mom. Okay. So, Mom's going to tell us some stories too?
Yes.
Well, I just want you to know we are so excited that you're here today. And I know it can be scary down there, right? All of us, even people that this is their job to come here every single day, they still get scared. So we're so happy to have you, and I'm very proud of you, okay? You're welcome. Good to meet you, Alyssa. All right, Mom.
Good morning, Chair Miller and committee members. My name is Ellen Marquez, ELLENMARQUEZ. I'm here today making comments on my own behalf and not on behalf of my employer. And as you can see, I am a proud parent of a young adult with Down syndrome. For too long, guardianship has been the default option for individuals who need assistance with decision-making. While guardianship has its place, it can also strip individuals of their rights. NRS 162C.200, the Supportive Decision-Making Law, otherwise known as SDM, offers a less restrictive alternative, one that empowers individuals with disabilities and older adults to make their own decisions with help from trusted supporters. However, many professionals do not recognize or they question SDM's validity, creating unnecessary barriers. By adding SDM to Nevada's guardianship law, we can ensure it is a recognized and respected option, preventing individuals from being forced into unnecessary guardianships and aligns with our state's commitment to self-determination. It allows individuals to retain their rights while receiving support from family, friends, or professionals to make informed choices about their health, finances, and daily life. In reality, we all use SDM. If you were considering purchasing a new car, you might ask someone who owns the same model about their experience, the positives and the drawbacks, before making your decision. This is SDM in action. If we all rely on guidance from trusted sources, why shouldn't individuals with disabilities and older adults have the same opportunity? I urge you to support SB 346, which adds SDM to Nevada's guardianship law to create a more balanced, person-centered system that upholds the rights of all Nevadans. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for raising a daughter who is self-reliant and resilient and an advocate. Thank you.
Thank you, and she does have her own opinions.
Oh, I see. We know that. That's why I asked them. Thank you so much. Anyone else here in support of the Senate bill? Not seeing anyone and not seeing anyone in Las Vegas Broadcasting, will you please open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Stephen Cohen for the record. Stephen with a V. Cohen is in the now former Assemblywoman. How can I follow that? Ditto. Thank you. I yield.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers choosing to testify in support.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for opposition testimony, beginning here in Carson City. Not seeing anyone in Carson or in Las Vegas Broadcasting. Open the lines, please.
If you would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in opposition.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for neutral testimony. Is there anyone here wishing to testify in neutral? Not seeing anyone here or in Las Vegas Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
If you would like to testify in neutral for Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Again, if you would like to testify in neutral for Senate Bill 346, please press star 9 now. Chair, there are no callers wishing to testify in.
Okay, thank you. With that, Senator does not want to make any final remarks, so I'm going to go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 346, and we will just wait a few minutes for our next presenter, so everyone can just be at ease, please. So I'm going to talk slowly because we all know what it's like rushing room to room when you have to, when you're coming in, having to present your bill. So our next bill today is Senate Bill 334. Senate Bill 334 revises provisions relating to the employment of offenders. And with that, your hearing is open, Senator. So whenever you are ready, if you still need another moment or so, but whenever you are ready, please proceed.
Good morning, Assembly Committee on Judiciary. I am Senator Neal, here to present SB 334. So basically, just to give a little bit of background on this bill, this is the first reprint, which basically we adjusted the bill. The original bill dealt with convict leasing. It's an issue that I had been working on since 21 and in 23, and then we tried it again in 2025, and then after I got like $119 million fiscal note and very racial hearing, I gutted it, and then this is the version that you have now. So ultimately, what am I trying to capture in Section 5 of the bill? So when you see that list of information related to the number of offenders who were eligible for employment, the number of offenders who were employed, the number who refused employment, the pay of those offenders, and the amount of the deduction from the account, and whether or not those offenders were employed on subsequent release, and the percentage that actually found a job that was in alignment with prison industries, I'm trying to go after a specific data set. And so ultimately, right, so there's certain types of pay within the prison industry. We have non-private industry, which typically are either state agencies that may be hiring prisoners for labor, and then we have a wage range between 35 cents to like $4.50 an hour. Then we have private industry where there's cert pay, which is a higher hourly wage that's based on basically the Bureau of Justice statistics, which basically it's called the PICP, where basically they set the rate when prison labor goes across state lines in order to produce a particular product. And so what's been common in each theme from 21 and 23 to 25 was they're working, they're happy, they end up getting skills that benefit the community. Yes? The larger question is, when you use prison labor, is that true or not? Are you actually really leaving prison, going into a reentry program, and finding a job that is the same job in which you worked within prison, right? So you can be a mechanic, you can be a law clerk, you can be a painter. There's a range of work. And so ultimately, I'm trying to get at whether or not the investment that is being placed, some state money, some private money, actually aligns with truly having a reentry position where the work that they're doing in prison actually is going to be aligned with the work that's happening outside. Why am I seeking to get this information? Well, there's a couple ways to skin a cat. Either convict leasing is happening or it's not. Either you're working them in prison and there is no actual fruitful outcome on the outside, or there is. And so when I look back at the annual workforce narrative reports, what's been consistent in each report, starting from 2000, going all the way up to 2024, is that reentry is still a topic for workforce and state investment. It has been a consistent topic for the past 24 years. So when I looked at the 2024 WIOA plan, which is actually on the Workforce Connections website, and they're still looking at the type of investment related to work-based learning opportunities and industry-aligned career exploration. So that sets up a couple of things, right? That if we're still talking about work-based learning opportunities, but yet in the conversation there is a statement that when they leave, they're taking these skills, they're able to, work within these industries and actually, become a part of the community in a particular industry in which we work them as prison labor, then why are we still having it as a goal for 24 years to make sure that the investment that we make through workforce dollars is industry-aligned career exploration, right? Secondly, why are we still trying to align work-based learning opportunities with a reentry population that was in prison that worked in a industry, right? Because if that is the case, shouldn't there be an automatic, seamless connection upon exiting. And then where we see the workforce dollars that we're putting in, we should actually be able to see, wow, you left with 3 years of mechanic experience, therefore it should be easy for me to place you. The amount of money in order that it takes for me to place you should be reduced because you already have a produced skill set for 3 years. There shouldn't be a question of whether or not I'm realigning. We know for a fact that when prisoners leave, they are still in need of a lot of healthcare services, housing, transitional housing, and work. So this bill represents a data set in which I am attempting to get information to try to be able to walk backwards, hopefully in 2027, to dig into the policy and say, is convict leasing really serving the benefit of the actual prisoner that's in there, or is it not? Additionally, I wanted to add in that when I really reflected back as I was gutting and replacing my bill, that I'd had a bill, AB 225 in 2015, where this actually will build upon work that I had already started in 2015. And so I'm just going to read a couple of sections that were in AB 225 in 2015. In my bill, I actually was seeking from the department in their reentry program that they were trying to establish between 18 months before release, is that they actually provide approved curriculum for any program or services that the entity will provide, meaning NDOC, provide the division with an appropriate list of parolees who have completed or are currently participating in a program of services and provided by the entity or any grant that they received, and also making sure provided to any offender or parolee who completes a program a certificate of completion or providing a copy of such certificate so that we can know what actual work that they were doing within that reentry program upon release. And so this bill actually will help to create a larger picture, one that started in 2015, and then I hope one that completes the picture on trying to understand the value of prison labor and convict leasing within our current NDOC system. And with that, I will open myself up for questions.
Thank you, Senator. Our first question is from Assemblymember Roth.
Thank you, Chair. Is there a reason that education is not included in this? Some of the professions that you're talking about would require an education, like being a law clerk, for example. And so is there a reason that we're not tracking education?
Senator Neal, I actually didn't even consider tracking the education because we already know like the type of industry that they're in. And from my understanding, there wasn't any information that was presented around a law clerk that may or may not have had like a paralegal experience or a JD that happened to be in prison. They were just kind of placed in that position and given some level of training. And so the data that it's already exists within LCB around prison industries that drops down, you can actually just kind of get a small description, but the education piece is very limited, and I actually didn't think about trying to pull that out because, well, a couple reasons. Who is actually doing educational training in the prison is very limited. I know CSN has tried. They have a small program that's not really fully funded. There is, I think they started a program 2 or 3 years ago, Hope for Prisoners, trying to do some apprenticeship work within the actual prison before they exited. But I didn't feel like maybe I would get a lot of valuable information from that.
Sure.
Yeah, the data that I'm just thinking about is when we're talking about, tracking where people are employed after they're released from prison, is that if there's a disconnect between what is actually allowable based on your education if they are getting that education in the prison. Because, if they're getting their high school diploma or if they're getting a college degree while they're in prison, it makes sense that that would be tracked to see how it translates when they're released.
Senator Neal, for the record, I hear your point. It makes sense. It's something I'll think about and consider after I want to go back and look at some additional information and see if it's being collected somewhere else.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Urick.
Thank you, Chair, for the question. And Senator, good to see you this morning. Thank you for this presentation. I will confess I'm a bit of a data junkie myself. I love evaluating programs, looking at ways that we can improve based on more than just anecdotal stories. And so I'm a fan of, I think, what you're trying to do here. My question is actually more of a logistical, procedural question. It seems like through this bill, there's going to be a lot of reporting and data gathering that's going to be put onto the director of DOC. And I'm just curious, as I look at this, it seems like there's a lot of data that might not be even within the DOC. So, for example, obviously, as my colleague just pointed out, some of the educational stuff that is inside might have access to that. But I'm looking at, people that are out working through parole and probation. Do PMP keep these data? Does DOC keep this data? For example, when they're gone and they're not even in the custody anymore, is issues like unemployment, is that tracked through DETR? Or how do you anticipate the director being able to gather all of this data to issue a report?
Senator Neal, thank you for the question. So first off, the data on the reentry population is collected in various places, right? So we have the workforce connections. At one point we had GOIN, I guess it's called OWIN. And then we also have internal data that they produce on certain pieces of this data. So currently you have the data, but it's within LCB. So it's not that it doesn't exist. It actually is broken down by industry and by job type where you get an Excel sheet. On the parolee question, on the flip side, right, that's why I brought up the 2015 legislation, which already mandated that they collect a certain amount of information around certifications and training that they may have done within the reentry population within their own program. What we know and understand is that currently the reentry program, or what used to be their reentry process, and I could only find the last report was 2018, which means that it rolled into another form of what's being collected in workforce, is that we are collecting on the reentry population within the workforce programs that we are either getting federal dollars for or state dollars for, because it is part of our long-term plan. It's been a part of our plan for actually 24 years, starting from 2000 when we started to actually collect workforce data. The only way you can get workforce data is from the actual parolee and the release. Currently, there should be a conversation between workforce and the reentry population that exits. Why? Because we have a lot of already existing data where we're trying to track, because they have to get services. So NDOC won't be the only entity on the hook, because it will just ramp up the current conversation with the workforce agencies that pick them up on the outside. And so this isn't going to cost them anything, because dollars are already expended on the workforce front dealing with the parolee or the released offender in several different programs. And yes, DETR does collect by subgroup re-entry just as long with foster children and other groups.
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Hardy.
Thank you, Chair, and good morning, Senator. I agree. Helping these people come out and have meaningful employment is very important. So I appreciate what you're doing here. My question is number 3 there, where you're collecting the number of offenders who refuse employment. If you could just explain, so if those in prison that are eligible for work in prison, how do you determine they're refusing? Is it voluntary, or if you're eligible, are you required to work in prison?
Senator Neal, for the record, my understanding is that there are only certain kinds of prisoner or certain types that are actually eligible for good behavior. They're they're within a certain amount of time of their release. What I was really trying to get at with the refusal was whether or not there was an employee, not an employee, but a prisoner who then is becoming an employee of an outside company or a state agency, on whether or not they were refusing for a certain wage rate. That's what I was really trying to get at, because in the non-private industries, the wage range can be 35 cents to $4.50, right? And so there could be a question there of a person saying, because once you start working, there are actual deductions that are taken out, not necessarily the deductions that we removed, I believe, in 23 and then also in 2021 related to medical expenses and other things where we were charging the actual offender for their medical fees. But it's my understanding that once they start making a wage, they're paying room and board, right? So if you're getting a certain amount of money and you can't actually cover that, then there was a debt cycle that we were creating within the system, which then created the outside family members putting money on the books. And so I was really trying to get at the original content of this bill, which was the convict leasing. Is there a person that's saying, I don't want to do this because it's actually going to create this debtor cycle that I'm never going to get out because that wage is so low that it's not really going to change the game, right?
Thank you. Our next question is from Assemblymember Cole.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Senator. Good to see you this morning. So my question is on number 6 of the data collection regarding the offenders who were employed and then the percentage who found employment within the same industries. And so my question is there maybe a different way to collect that data so that it's not just the percentage, but more, this is the program that they did while in prison, and then this is the industry they went into when they got out. And the reason why I bring this up is because I, for instance, when I moved out here, I was working in a warehouse, but I have a degree in environmental science. But my ability or my skills that I learned in college were directly applicable to my management position in the warehouse, but you wouldn't see that as a direct correlation, if that makes sense. And then I think that the prison programs are probably fairly limited in scope as to what they offer. And so a person might get out and really want to expand their horizons. Thank you.
Senator Neal, thank you for the question. The reason for number 6 on why I wanted to capture the percentage of the offenders who found employment following the release within the industries in which they were employed goes back to the original intent on the statements that have been made in each hearing from 21, 23, and 25, that they are actually able to work within the industry in which they were leased within the actual prison system or therefore paid, right? It also secondarily was something that I was interested in capturing because of the 2024 WIOA plan that runs through 2027 that actually is still seeking as one of their mission and goals is that there is industry-aligned career exploration, right? So if you can spend money on the actual position in which they were trained in prison industries, not only are you reducing the cost, 2, you believe or you have an assumption that at least the entry job that they can start before they transition reduces the amount of training time that you may have to produce, right? So there's a different, element of workforce training, right? So you have the workforce training and then you have the ethos, right? Or the ethics that you might have to teach, which hopefully were remedied in these reentry programs within prison, right? Being on time, interacting with folks, and trying to figure out how you were going to deal within a workplace setting. But knowing that that was one of the goals, to invest dollars in work-based learning opportunities and alignment of career exploration, if number 6 is accurate in regards to that you're leaving and you're joining a position that is what you were trained in prison, we now know that that first 18 months or 3 years of workforce training and dollars that are probably dedicated to those individuals is significantly reduced, and we should actually see wages, right? We should actually see a position that transitions while they're saying, I know I did this in prison, I don't want to do this anymore, like your example. That in year 2, I actually want to do something else. I want to take my mechanic position, and maybe I want to figure out how to have my own auto shop and then get into some entrepreneurship program. The reality is that they're not actually transitioning into an actual work position. And the reason why I'm making that, it's not even an assumption, is because for 24 years from the year 2000, it has been a consistent and active investment of dollars, state and federal, to make sure that the reentry population has a job. And that is what I'm trying to make sure that I have data on, so I can establish either it's working or it's not. Either they were physically used or they weren't, right? Because there should be a benefit of the work upon exit.
Thank you. Our next question will be from Assemblymember Hanson.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for being here. As an employer in the private sector, we have, tried to employ those who have been formerly incarcerated, and we've had some fruitful relationships because of it. But I want to explore this a little bit more that you've been talking about with my colleague, Assemblymember Cole. I guess my question is the purpose of prison industries, of which I have visited. I've had an opportunity to visit the Lovelock prison in my district. I've been highly impressed with the prison industries. I have been able to see that, these individuals there, they want to be involved and not just sitting around. So I've been really impressed with prison industries. But my question is the purpose of prison industries to train offenders to go after the same job they had while they were incarcerated?
Senator Neal, for the record, not exactly, and I would say no. Some of that, well, there's 2 parts, right? It's 3. Number 1, fulfilling a need either for a private or non-private industry, right? That has contracted with prison industries, that brings in income to prison industries that is then recycled for the next program. 2, it also allows actual prisoners to get some time to do skill, to move out of a cell, to gain some skill sets where they can either find benefit and as stated in some of the prior hearings, happiness, right? 3, I do believe that the training, if their dollars expended, so there's 2 sets of dollars, right? So there's the private dollars that can come from a private corporation that either can reside in the state or be out of the state. Could even be another government, right? California or some other state that's employing. There and also the money that we expend that are state dollars, right? So in fleet services, we have prisoners who are mechanics working on fleet service cars who then those agencies rent out for usage in the Department of Cosmetology or with Division of Forestry, right? So those are then state dollars that then are invested at the lower rate, that 35 cents or $4.50, that are then invested in that prisoner. And so when I look at the state investment in that particular training, then I do want a different outcome on how that money was expended. Why? Because number one, it was taxpayer money that was expended in the non-private side for that individual to do that work. So for that training or job experience within prison not to translate into at least a foundation, apprenticeship, leveling up upon exit, then we have just, it's not an investment, it's a waste of money. Because there should be some realized investment on the dollars that you've expended, whether or not it was $10,000 that you expended on that prisoner for 3 years. There should be some translation of that taxpayer dollar upon release, because there's another set of taxpayer dollars waiting on that prisoner who's been released now as a reentry or justice impacted person, that then will have to be expended for additional training on the workforce side. So wouldn't it make more sense that the dollar that you're expending inside translate to the dollar that is being spent on the outside, and there's a reduced investment, because not only can you tack on the training, you don't have to do as much training while you're transitioning them into housing that they still have to pay for, which is typically on the state dime, the medical care, which is Medicaid, that we typically is on the state dime. And if we're really trying to make a person whole, right, because we've released them saying, you're ready to reenter society, we believe that you have been reformed, then why would we double spend on the same thing and then not reap the benefit of an actual trained person who then needs to make sure that they can take care of whatever, family, themselves, upon release? And to me, I want the state investment to do that work, even if they believe that the private money didn't. That makes sense?
Thank you so much, Senator. Not seeing any more questions, I will go ahead and open it up for testimony in support of Senate Bill 334, beginning here in Carson City.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair and committee members. My name is Nick Shepak, Nickshepak. I'm the Nevada State Director of the Fines and Fees Justice Center here in strong support of SB 334. This is the type of data that we have been collecting since 2018. This data is available. It is difficult to get. It requires us to file public records request after public records request. So we're not super concerned with the availability of this data. However, having it packaged in a single report would be huge for this state. When we hear presentations on different prison industries and prison workforce programs, we often hear, oh, people are making as much as $15 an hour, $14 an hour. We have a state law that allows the department to deduct 50% of a worker's wages. But it is very difficult to see how much of that is actually being taken and what those deductions look like. What we do know is that a large number of people come out of NDOC with massive amounts of debt. It's usually medical debt. And a very dismal amount of restitution is paid, even by people who have lucrative jobs while they are incarcerated. This type of data will allow us to make the decisions as a state that ensure that people, one, aren't released with tons of debt hanging over their heads, we have programs that lead to actual jobs, and that we can prioritize restitution as Marcy's law requires while people are incarcerated. But right now, the data is so murky, so messy, and so difficult to get, we have a really hard time parsing it and making those decisions as a state. So we think that this bill will push us in a fantastic direction to really fix a lot of the problems that are going on within the department. We support it for that reason, and we hope you do too. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. Harrison Epstein, Harrison Epstein, Clark County Public Defender's Office, legal extern. Quite simply, we just want to echo the statements of Mr. Shepak and the Fines and Fees Justice Center and add that this bill is an integral first step in creating a more rehabilitative system for incarcerated people in Nevada, and we hope that you all support it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Not seeing anyone else here or in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you open the lines?
If you would like to testify in support of Senate Bill 334, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 130, please press star 6 to unmute your phone. You may begin.
Good morning. My name is Denise Bolaños Heredia, Bolanos Heredia, and I'm the Associate Director of Return Strong, an organization that advocates for the dignity and rights of incarcerated people and their families. While we originally supported SB 334 as introduced for its direct effort to bring fairness to prison labor practices, we appreciate that this amended version takes a step, however incremental, towards addressing what has long been an open secret. Incarcerated people in Nevada are performing essential labor for pennies, labor that directly benefits public agencies and private industries alike. We understand that the stated justification for these poverty wages is that people are being offered job training and experience that will supposedly help them find employment after release. This study gives us the opportunity to test that claim, and we welcome that accountability. People inside perform real, skilled, and sometimes dangerous work like firefighting, yet they are not fairly compensated. That's exploitation, and it's long overdue for reform. We hope this study produces irrefutable data that not only ends the debate over whether people should be paid fairly for their labor, because the answer is and always has been and always will be yes, they should, but also exposes a more uncomfortable truth, that this has long been in the state's best interest, or private and public sectors, to continue this practice. If the so-called workforce training isn't helping people secure jobs post-release, then it's not serving them. It's serving those private and public sectors profiting off of their work. Fair wages inside prison mean people can support families, pay restitution, and build economic stability before release. That stability translates into reduced recidivism and safer communities for us all. We urge this body to take the study seriously, support this bill, and use these findings to push for real change. People in prison are still people, with rights, with value, and with dignity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next caller.
Chair, there are no other callers to testify in support.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for opposition testimony, beginning here in Carson City.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the committee. My name is Bill Quenga, Billquenga. I'm the Deputy Director of Nevada Department of Corrections for Prison Industries Division. NDOC, we oppose this bill at this time. There's a lot of components that need to be added to this bill. For Prison Industries, we are an independent, self-supporting division. So we get no taxpayer dollar. So what we earn, what we make, pays all the salaries, offender wages, training, equipment, and all that. What we'd like to see is that we could get other agencies and look at this bill further. For example, a lot of the offenders that come through, when they get out, we lose track. We don't keep track with them. A lot of them do call me, and they stay in touch. Many of them are successful. So I had a custom carpenter that was in there for 15 years. He is now a high-level manager at Tesla, running a production line. I had an admin clerk that was in there for 15 years. He is now an engineer at Tesla. So he was just an admin clerk. Additionally, to categorize offenders who aren't working as refusing and trying to track that, it makes it very difficult. It creates an inaccurate narrative that offenders are obligated to work. They are not. It's all voluntary. Also, the language of this bill is unclear whether it applies only to prison industries or to all institutional labor. Finally, the purpose of prison industries is to prepare offenders for successful reentry by providing them with marketable skills that translate to the outside workforce It is not the intention necessarily to place offenders in the exact field they worked in while incarcerated. While anecdotally, Prison Industries keeps in touch with the offenders once they've re-entered society. For the reasons listed above, it would be nearly impossible to track all offenders after release. The majority of offenders we've kept in touch with are successfully employed in a wide array of careers. They credit skills learned in Prison Industries that were transferable to their current occupation rather than a direct line from the job in Prison Industries to their job on the outside. For the reasons we oppose, NDOC opposes this bill.
Okay, so I have a question for you. So you mentioned that the jobs that are available in the prisons are all voluntary, meaning that, of course, no one is forced to participate in work. But my question is, while it is voluntary on the person on whether or not they choose to work, are all jobs accessible to or available to everyone in the prison?
For the record, Bill Coinga, yes.
So every job is open to every single person in the prison. There's no restrictions, requirements, anything like that?
For the record, Bill Coinga, there's jobs, but it depends on the category of their custody level also. For example, a maximum custody, close custody, to a medium custody, and also all offenders that work I'm speaking on Prison Industries alone.
Mm-hmm.
I can't speak for correctional programs reentry and the department as far as their porters, law clerks, and all that. But every offender is reviewed by a classification committee, which consists of the warden, custody officer, and a caseworker reviewing, and it's based upon their history of their behavior as far as any incidents, any prior escapes. Understanding that Prison Industry is a very volatile area. In 30 years I've been there, we've never had a staff assaulted or an offender assaulted in Prison Industries, which I'm very proud of because safety comes first and foremost over a product, over wage, or anything.
Well, that is an outstanding record because, of course, yes, we want the safety of our employees as well as those that are incarcerated there. So you're saying that in order to get a job with Prison Industries, that it depends on, again, the level of security that the inmate's under, their record or behavior, meaning any negative actions that they've had or haven't. Is there anything else that would qualify or disqualify them from employment? Maybe saying any previous skills or training or education they have, or is that not something that's considered in the prison for Prison Industries?
For the record, Bill Coinga, so all jobs in Prison Industries, we post a job announcement through the caseworker, through the units. So on level 1, which is the offenders that are general population. So we post that out there with all the requirements. So what Prison Industries does, we try to mimic the private sector as much as we can. We want these offenders to come in and work so that when they do transfer and go out and re-enter society, they have those transferable, marketable skills, and they're not walking up to a door and standing there waiting to be patted down. We run our operations in Prison Industries and try to mimic the private sector as much as we can in a facility, which is really tough doing business. You just can't have customers come in when they want. Everything has to be scheduled and everything has to be planned.
Okay, so I appreciate that. So you're saying that you're trying to mimic the outside as much as possible and those transferable skills. So then in that case, is there actually a correlation between the jobs that they're having and hopefully will gain upon release?
For the record, Bill Coinga, yes, we have a real strong relationship with Western Nevada College. I brought in the welding program. The professor came in there since 2002. If we were not building prisons or jails, the offenders in the welding shop were doing nothing. So it's like we got to think outside the box. So now we help private companies out there, and that's under the PI program. Anything that crosses state line for profit, we must pay the 10 percentile, the prevailing wage for that SOC code. So welders make anywhere from 14 to 18 bucks an hour. So what we do is a lot of the welders have come out. They've got AWS certifications, and they're out in the street. In the Judiciary Committee, I had an offender come in who was in there for 20 years. He started in the mattress factory at Nevada State Prison, went up to Lovelock when we transferred it, came back down to NNCC where we moved the mattress factory, and he asked to be placed in the welding program. So my thing is giving them incentive and stepping stones and learn different trades. I said, if you find somebody that can take your place and replace the job that you're doing in there as a clerk, I will give you that opportunity. So he did. He found somebody to replace him, and he went to the program, enrolled in the college. He's been there 20 years. He got out 6 months ago. He took 30 days off. He saved over $40,000. He came out as the shop foreman. He is now the general manager for this welding company on the streets. And I'm very proud to say many of them come out. Like I said, the engineer at Tesla, the production manager up there who's doing outstanding, who got a 5-star rating from Tesla, which is real hard and rare to get at Tesla.
Thank you so much. Continuing on with opposition testimony.
Yeah, Justin Pope, JUSTIN POPE, for the record. I just would like to point out that there is a less tangible element here. There is a philosophical part of this work that these guys are doing that is, very important. If I refer to my horse training program, I would say that the majority of those guys are probably not going to go out and train horses when they get out. Some of them have, and some of them will. But we're taking men that may have never had a job before in their life, and we're giving them this animal that they have to take care of. They're responsible for feeding it. They're responsible for getting it trained. We have benchmarks that are set that they have to meet in order to get that horse ready to be adopted. And with that kind of a mindset, it really does change who these guys are. And I've heard these guys talk about how dealing with these horses changes the way they're going to deal with relationships in their life and the way that they're going to interact with people because of this work that they're doing. So we have to keep that in mind too. Everything's maybe not so black and white. Everything's not all in the numbers per se. And I would have to say the agriculture program as a whole, the business model of it would not be the greatest because we hire many more offenders to work there than is necessary to run that ranch, just so that we could have more guys gaining that level of training and skill. So I guess when we make these decisions and vote on these things, we need to keep that in mind too.
Thank you so much. I will go ahead and, is there anyone else here in Carson in opposition? Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas, then I will go ahead and open the lines, please.
The public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you. Then I will open it up for neutral testimony, beginning here in Carson City.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. Great pleasure. I'm just concerned that prison labor is used for cheap labor, and I just hear people getting paid pennies on the dollar, and I just feel like large corporations are using that to exploit people, and we want to make sure that that just doesn't happen. Hopefully, this is relevant, but make sure that "Made in America" really means what it means. So, thank you.
Sir, can you please state and spell your name for the record?
Oh, sorry. It's CYRUSHOJJATY. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in neutral here in Carson City? Okay, not seeing anyone here or in Las Vegas broadcasting. Will you open the lines, please?
Chair, the public line is open and working. There are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Then I will welcome the senator back up for any final remarks.
Senator Neal, for the record. Number one, I want to thank the committee for hearing this bill. The information that was placed on the record about posting the job announcement, which means we know the job, we know the skill sets, and 2, we also know who took the job. 3, we also know that in the examples that I made in the hearing about partnering, which clearly there's a partnership with Western Nevada College, which is an expansion of workforce, which is an actual objective and a good objective to make sure that there is an alignment. The statement that for, they learn trades, is something that we actually want to happen. We also want to make sure that the taxpayer money, whether or not it's state money or it was an out-of-state company or state, that there is a connection between the workforce. The data exists. It does not exist in the public form. I could share the Excel sheet with you guys after the hearing, but ultimately they're not going around reproducing this data. As a current sitting legislator, you could go and ask for this data right now from LCB. Now, whether or not it's presented in that public forum, that's an entirely different question. But there is not going to be some extra expense around the prison industries on producing this data. Want to know why? Because their budget is also in finance, and we answer and ask the question on these different industries around what it is that you're doing, what are the types of jobs that are actually out there. And so there's information that's easy. The information that is probably not something they want to do is being able to prove up that there is true alignment with the work and the taxpayer money that was expended for workforce purposes. And so with that, I appreciate you guys hearing this bill, and thank you for the time this morning.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will go ahead and close the hearing on Senate Bill 334. Last item on our agenda today is public comment. So inviting anyone here in Carson City that would like to make public comment. Not seeing anyone. Not seeing anyone in Las Vegas. Broadcasting, will you open the lines, please?
Chair, the public line is open and working, and there are no callers at this time.
Thank you so much. Then with that, I will go ahead and close public comment. We have concluded our business for today, so I will adjourn and see you all back at 8:30 tomorrow morning. You're welcome. See y'all.